Lastly, I want to talk about Love is Blind. And if you're not watching Love is Blind, watch it. This season was really controversial, I'm sorry. Because it was just a lot going on this season, y'all. I'm just going to tell you. Um there was really not a lot of people that got married this time. And I'm sorry, this is a spoiler. I should say that before I spoil it. Hopefully everybody done watched it by now and know what happened at the end because it has been ongoing press about it. The reunion just aired. So this is why I'm talking about it because I don't really like to ruin people, surprise or the show. But I want to tell y'all that there was not a lot of weddings this season, which I was kind of disappointed in. Um, and I want to talk about AD because AD was one of the main figures of this season. And a lot of people kind of was like talking about her because ultimately the guy that she fell in love with and who fell in love with her, Clay, he said no at the altar. And so many people were outraged because Clay said no at the altar. Like, I feel like so many people were like, what in the hell? Why did he do that? Why did he embarrass her? Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. I felt so bad for her. But the premise of the show is love is blind. And everyone goes into the show understanding that when you go to that altar, it could be a yes or a no. This is why I watch it. This is why we all watch it. This is why the fans watch it. So why is everybody so outraged that he said no at the altar? That is what he was supposed to do. I mean, and I'm not even like justifying Clay because I feel like Clay, I got a lot of problems with Clay and what he did. But that right there, though, the outrage about that is just like it's kind of like bothering me at this point. Because if y'all want to change the premise of the show, like stop. I want it to stay the same. This is what it's about. It's a lot of people that said no before Clay. Okay, he is not the only motherfucker that said no. All I want to know is that why are we more outraged that Clay said no and not outraged at how AD was treated like an object most of the damn show? And I'm not even talking about just by Clay. I'm talking about by cast members. Because everybody think they can comment on her body and sexualize her. And I feel like that's what should have been an outrage, not all this other stuff. Because Clay should have said no. If he did not want to marry her, he should have said it when he said it. And I'm glad he didn't say yes and he really meant no. But here's the thing, Laura and her cringy husband, boyfriend, I'm sorry, fiance, wanted to bean dip AD. And because we don't know what bean dip is, I know I didn't. I'm like, bean dip. But I kind of could, okay, bean dip, like, okay, I could see what that meant. But I was like, what the hell is bean dip? Because and y'all know who I mean by we don't say stuff like that. We don't call that bean dip. I mean, we just don't. That's not our term. So you know whose terms that is. So I had to look it up. And of course, it's in Google. And bean dip is when you raise the underboob of a man or a woman with your index finger, right? Like, so you kind of flick it, right? You touch someone's boob. Now, from what I understand in that episode, Laura meant something completely different, but ultimately she wanted her fiance to touch AD in a intimate way. And AD had an actual problem with that. She was like, "What in the actual hell is going on here? Why would you tell your fiance to do that to me?" And they were so disrespectful that Jeremy actually said it in front of Clay, who was her fiance at the time. So eh, they treated her like an object, like for real. Like then after that, Jimmy saw her and he's just like, Jimmy, he can't even focus on his fiance because he's so busy looking at AD body. It it was, I mean, her body. is beautiful. It's banging. But the way they sexualized her, it actually irritated the heck out of me. And I think people were more outraged that Clay said no than the way that she was treated on the show. And Laura, for her to say something like that and just kind of trivialize it, and she apologized real like, well, I'm sorry, and me and AD are close, and this and this and that. And AD really should have been I think she said it at that time too, like, this is disrespectful, this is, this is disgusting. But she also kind of forgave Laura and then confronted someone else for Laura, like kind of fought Laura's battle for her. And I'm kind of like, pipe down, AD, because why are you intervening in someone who disrespected you and objectified you that much? So that's kind of how I felt about that. Like, I felt like AD, yeah, she got stood up at the altar, but that is the risk you take when you're on the show. So no, I don't think she's a victim. Okay, sorry I said it. And I know y'all, whatever. I know people gonna feel a certain way about that because there's so many people. It's like, oh my God, she's not a victim. She came on a show where she knows that she can be left at the altar. It just is what it is. So I think ultimately, what I think with this whole AD situation is that we should be more outraged at the way she was sexualized on that show and treated like an object. That's what I think. And I think that Laura, even though she apologized for asking her fiance to bean dip someone, like, it's just disgusting. Like, what? I don't know what the hell kind of back and forth people stay with their fiancés and spouses, but I have never asked my fiance to touch nobody, or I ain't never asked my husband to do no stuff like that. Like, I'm not into that, but I guess some people are, so I'm not judging. That's just not my thing, right? Um, but I just think that the apology that Laura gave AD, it just wasn't enough. Like, and then AD to go in and then go after Sarah Ann, which, trust me, I'm not defending Sarah Ann, okay? Because Sarah Ann went after a man that she knew was engaged. And whether or not the experiment allowed for other connections or not, that's not the purpose. The purpose of that whole thing was that Sarah Ann didn't let the situation with Laura and Jeremy play out before she intervened. So I completely understand the outrage with Sarah Ann and how people felt about her. And I know if you don't watch Love is Blind, you might be lost a little bit, but go back and watch it. That's all I'm gonna tell you. Because I'm not about to explain the whole show. I'm just talking from the premise of you already watched it and you know what the hell I'm talking about. What Sarah Ann did was fine. The experiment is unique. Armchair quarterbacking is easy. Yeah, but at the end of the day, in my opinion, AJ, I feel like what she should have done was let the experiment with Laura and Jeremy play out before she intervened. That email was shady. That email was shady because that email was like, hey, I'm still interested just in case you and Laura are having problems. Like, it was a little shady. That's how I feel. And I feel like even if her and Jeremy would have got together after the experiment was over, or after Jeremy and Laura actually kind of broke up, I would have been cool with that. I would have been cool with that. But I just think the way she did it was I didn't like the way she did it.